Back in the autumn of 1888, this shadow fell over London, and it created a legend of terror that, let's be honest, still haunts us today. The killer didn't have a face, just a name whispered in fear: Jack the Ripper. So to really get a handle on this mystery, we have to look at the crimes themselves, specifically the 5 murders that are almost universally believed to be his work. We're talking about the Canonical Five.
Right, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? For well over a century, the killer's real identity has stayed one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. There was no confession, no suspect they could ever pin it on, no face to put to the name. So the only real clues we have, they lie with the victims themselves.
So why these 5 women? Well, they're called canonical because their murders share this really distinct, evolving, and frankly, horrifying pattern. It's a pattern that really separates them from all the other awful crimes happening at the time. To even begin to understand the killer, we have to follow that pattern victim by victim and see just how his brutal methods changed over time.
Okay, so our story starts in the dark, gaslit streets of Whitechapel. You gotta picture it, a place of just extreme poverty and desperation. And it's here, in the wee hours of August 31st, that the killer's grim work first comes to light.
The first victim was a woman named Mary Ann Nichols. Her body was found in a dark, cobbled alley called Buck's Row, and the way she was killed, well, it sent an immediate shockwave right through the city. Right from the get-go, the killer's method was just shockingly brutal. Mary Ann's throat was cut so deeply it almost took her head clean off, and her abdomen was viciously slashed open. But here's the key thing. At this stage, no major organs were actually taken. This was the horrifying starting point. So with this first murder, the killer establishes his grim signature, a quick, silent kill by cutting the throat, and then mutilation after death. It was an absolutely terrifying pattern for sure, but believe it or not, it was about to get so much worse.
Okay, so just 8 days later, the killer strikes again. And this time, the crime scene tells a much more disturbing story. He wasn't just being brutal. Now he was being precise, and that precision, it would change the entire direction of the police investigation.
Annie Chapman was the second victim. She was found in the backyard of a house on Hanbury Street. So you can see, the Ripper was already getting bolder, operating in a place that, yeah, it was private, but it was completely surrounded by houses where people were sleeping.
The attack started the same way, a deep cut to the throat. But what came next was a shocking escalation. Her abdomen wasn't just slashed this time, it was laid wide open. And the most chilling part, her uterus had been removed with what looked like surgical precision. This one detail absolutely terrified investigators. It suggested the killer wasn't just some frenzied maniac. This was someone with a steady hand, someone with real knowledge of human anatomy, maybe a doctor or a butcher or someone with medical training. The Phantom of Whitechapel now had a possible profession, and the city's fear, well, it deepened.
So, in just over a week, you've got the killer establishing his method with Nichols, and then revealing this terrifying skill with Chapman. A truly horrifying picture was starting to form for the people of London. The city was on edge, but the real autumn of terror was just getting started.
What happened next is what really cemented the Ripper's legend as this figure of almost supernatural evil. On one single night, September 30th, the killer showed this unbelievable audacity. He struck not once, but twice, in what became known as the double event.
So the night unfolded in 2 chilling acts. First, Elizabeth Stride was found. Her throat was cut, but that was it, no other mutilations. The theory is that the killer was interrupted right as he was starting his ritual. But less than an hour later, he found Catherine Eddowes. And this time, the attack was a complete frenzy. Her face was horrifically mutilated, her abdomen torn open, and her kidney and part of her uterus were taken.
The double event gives us this chilling peek into the killer's mind. After being stopped with Stride, his rage and his compulsion to kill didn't just go away. It got stronger. He immediately went out, found another victim, and finished his grotesque ceremony, but this time with even more savagery.
After the double event, London was just paralyzed with fear. Then, there was a pause for over a month. And on November 9th, the Ripper committed what would be his final canonical murder. But this time, he had a huge advantage he'd never had before: complete and total privacy.
The last of the Canonical Five was Mary Jane Kelly. Now, unlike all the others who were killed outside in semi-public places, Kelly was murdered inside her own small rented room at a place called Miller's Court.
Just let that sink in for a second. For the first time, the killer was indoors. No risk of someone walking by. No need to rush. He could lock the door. He had all the time in the world. And what he did with that time is almost beyond imagination.
The scene that the police walked into, I mean, it was a vision from hell. The mutilations were so extensive, the victim was barely recognizable as a human being. Her throat was severed all the way down to the bone. Organs, including her heart, had been taken out and just arranged around the room. Her face was methodically destroyed.
This was it. This was the horrifying climax of the Ripper's violence. Mary Jane Kelly's murder shows us the full, unrestrained expression of his rage when he was given time and privacy. It was the absolute peak of his brutality.
And then, just silence. After the unbelievable horror of Miller's Court, the canonical Ripper murders simply stopped. But the pattern they left behind, it tells a very clear, very terrifying story of one killer's descent into utter depravity.
When you look at it all together, the pattern shows this clear, terrifying escalation. It starts with him establishing a method on Mary Ann Nichols. It evolves to reveal his anatomical skill on Annie Chapman. The killer's inner frenzy is just unleashed during that double event. And then, finally, it reaches a shocking, brutal climax behind the locked door of Mary Jane Kelly's room.
And this leads us to the final, haunting question that keeps this case alive today. After reaching such an extreme peak of violence, after showing the world the absolute worst he was capable of, why did he just stop? Was he arrested for some other crime? Did he die? Or did he just move away, his dark urges finally satisfied? You know, in a way, the silence is almost as terrifying as the crimes themselves.